Today, for all there is to talk about in this episode, there's one thing in particular I really want to talk about, and that is an idea that Yusaku brings up. An idea that is not always easy to bring up in media and something we don't necessarily see a lot of. Not certainly in Yu-Gi-Oh!, not in other shonens, not in other anime, or even a lot of Western media. And you know what? It's taken me 4 tries to try and get this video right. But essentially, that idea is, what is justice? Because remember, Yusaku says in this episode he's doing this for justice, but the visual metaphors they're using imply otherwise, or imply that he might be wrong in his thinking method. This is very ballsy, because trying to directly do a theme of justice is not easy. Now, yes, most narratives tend to be good versus evil, but justice is different. Justice is looked at as what is the defined for good and evil? What is the defined conflict of it? What is the repercussions? How do you deal with it? In fact, I'd argue Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains is almost more interested in the repercussions of people's actions than actually what is implied with them. Like, think about this for a minute. After the duel with Revolver, we spent a good 10 or 15 minutes showing how the effects of it affected Aoi and Akira, or affected Emma, or affected Revolver, or affected Yusaku. We spend a lot of time in this show looking at after effects and seeing how it affects people. I'm saying affects a lot. But essentially, this is interesting because a lot of times, narratives either end when the conflict is over, or don't want to address it at all. Like, this is really interesting to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Doing it, especially in the last one, where it felt like your sense of right or wrong is defined on your sense of humor. Like, you don't see this a lot. Or if you look at other shonens. One thing that really bothers me about the direction the Dragon Ball saga has gone, and if you like Dragon Ball Super, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying you're a good person or a bad person, or that the show was a bad influence or anything. This is just what it feels like to me. It's become less about being a hero and more about just muscle-brained idiots fighting other muscle-brained idiots. I often hear people say that Goku doesn't really fight for what's right, he just fights because he loves to fight. It's as if they've taken away the sense of justice to it, or the sense of right and wrong, just for showing off action. Why do they do this? Again, I'm not caught up on Super, so this is all just speculation. But a lot of it is that, well, when you bring in justice, you enter a level of seriousness Dragon Ball doesn't want to go. And this is true for most other shonens. One Piece, actually mainly just those two. Mainly any shonen that tries to be all sort of child whimsical, I feel like does this. Basically, when you take out that sense of justice, you take out a level of seriousness so you can go to a level of far you can't go. Now, the consequences don't matter, so you can do things like blow the whole Earth up, or let evil aliens go, or not hunt down 2 androids who are going to destroy the Earth. You don't have to adhere to any sense of this is right or wrong, because you've established that doesn't matter in this universe. Then you can see the other side of it, something like My Hero Academia, where a sense of justice is so strongly defined, there are ways to work around it within it. Using Season 2 as an example, the whole storyline with Todoroki and Endeavor is fantastic because it addresses justice in a very interesting way. Endeavor is a hero. He goes and fights bad guys. But he doesn't do it because he has a strong moral sense like All Might does. He does it because he apparently just wants to be big and famous. He wants to be looked at as the strongest, and the only reason he wanted children was so they can continue being the big and strongest, to the point where this resulted in an abusive family and a very tragic backstory for Todoroki. We also saw this come to a head in the Hero Killer Stain arc, where basically you had this character who's worked out his own screwed up sense of justice to the point where he's killing people. When you use justice as a theme, you really need to think outside the box and stay very intelligent. One of the other big trailblazers I loved in this was Black Lagoon. Like, right and wrong is so relative to a situation in that show that, what does that mean for justice? So to see something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Address it, a series that, sort of like DBZ and One Piece, has to be appealing to children, but also wants to go that extra mile unlike those other two, is very fascinating. Again, you look at these characters, they might be doing what's right, but what reasons are they doing it for? What's Yusaku going to do when he encounters the people who abused him? Is he gonna throw them in jail? Is he gonna kill them? These are interesting things to think about. And does it matter that Yusaku isn't doing this necessarily for the right reasons? He's just doing it out of revenge and hatred. These are interesting things to think about, and I love that the Yu-Gi-Oh series is trying to address these. It's fascinating to think about as a concept. We saw this executed in Daredevil on Netflix. What is justice? What level do we need to put ourselves up to? And then you see, like, it's so unaddressed in something like the James Bond franchise, where James Bond doesn't think like a hero. A lot of times he just thinks like a playboy goofball who just kind of does it just because. And then you saw how this had to be changed in the Daniel Craig era to now you have a James Bond who spends a lot of time on personal reflection, wondering what is right and wrong, and even if he has a sense of right and wrong. It goes to show that society has changed in how we view justice and how that is represented in media. And I really think it's interesting Yu-Gi-Oh! Is trying to go this route. Again, it's interesting to think about that the two older characters, Akira and Hot Dog Guy, I still don't remember this guy's name. Have they even said his name? Like, seriously, does anyone address this guy? But essentially, they are leading the younger generation, the two siblings, or, Yusaku and Aoi. And it's interesting to think about because these older two are not necessarily the best people. They are screwed up, they have problems, and their own senses of justice are skewered. Akira flat out seems to understand that he doesn't necessarily have a sense of right or wrong, he just kind of follows his own code. Same with the other two. And this has sort of led them in trouble. Because of Akira's nature and because of his attitude, Aoi wound up in a coma. Because of the other guy, it feels as though he's almost enabling Yusaku to keep doing this, and he also only views it as a tool for revenge. And that is what's very interesting here. It's definitely showing you these subjects, but it's not painstakingly spoon-feeding them to you, and it's not saying this is necessarily the right answer. It is saying that this is what's happening, this is how these people think, and what do you think? I love that Yu-Gi-Oh! Wants to do this, and I seriously hope they don't give up on it like Arc 5 did, because I think it would be really great after a character like Yugioh, whose moral code seemed to just be make everybody smile. I'd love to really see if Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains can continue going into this very thinking-based, very intelligent-based narrative. But what did you think? In the comment section below, tell me if you agree with any of this, if you think I'm bullshitting, if you didn't like that I brought up so many other sources, if you now hate me for saying I think Dragon Ball is dumb. But that's all for now. As always, click to like, click to subscribe. Oh yeah, TCG question of the week. I've decided for this weekend to play my Magician Pendulums for the OTS, now that I've seen their power, and also I just want my Nats invite. So my question to you is, have you ever, for a big tournament, given up on maybe a fun deck or something you really wanted to try to play what's meta? And if so, do you think that's giving in, or do you think that's just setting you up to fight with that with your more fun deck another day? Tell me that below, and we'll see you next time.